Welcome back to Franchise Defenders. I'm Cloud Kicker, and we're gonna get to some box office numbers for 355. It looks like it's gonna be the first bomb of the year already, uh, for a budget of a $75 million action flick. $75 million. That I don't know what they were spending $75 million on, but right now through the middle of Sunday, 4.8 million for their opening weekend. That's not looking that's not looking good at all. That's not looking good at all. So their preview day only 350,000 for their preview day that they got. 350,000. Now we can compare that to, let's say, Bad Boys for Life 2020. They had a $90 million budget, but that that was action packed, a lot of stunt work and everything in there. Now, are they saying that 355 is going to be as much action as that? Is it? If it is, okay, but they're gonna have to execute. And we see what they did when they opened up 6 million on their preview day, not 350,000, 6 million, 62 million on their opening weekend. Now, it is pre-pandemic, like right before everything. So, yeah, take that with a grain of salt. But we can look at Bad Boys back in 1995 and $23 million budget. Just action film, $23 million budget, nothing fancy in there. A lot of it was just regular stunt work and stuff. And they opened up with 15 million. 1995 movie opened up with 15 million. Now, okay, yeah, Martin Lawrence, Will Smith. So can we get something a little bit? Can we compare somebody a little bit more, something similar? Well, there is. I don't know if you remember, but A Long Kiss Goodnight was starring Gina Davis back in 1996. It didn't do all too well at the theaters. It is loved by many now. I guess it's almost considered a cult classic. A lot of people loved it. I'm still not sure why it didn't do too well at the box office. Uh, her and Samuel Jackson were, in a pretty good amount of movies during that time. But as we see, that film had a $65 million budget. Trying to think, it did have like a lot of stunt work, helicopters, explosions, and stuff. So if that film had a $65 million budget, then okay, I could see the 355 having a $75 million budget, because that 65 million, that's way overpriced for an action film in 1996, in my opinion. But look, that film was even able to pull out 10 million on the opening weekend. 1996, Gina Davis was able to pull 10 million out of her action film. And it may not be just that it's all female cast, because people will go see an all female cast. It's how it's marketed, and maybe with this one, not even how it's marketed. There people did figure out what it was about, and there were the leaks and rumors, but they didn't. I didn't think they advertised it too badly, but I think they are just a victim of the times, of how many people, of how we've gotten burnt so many times with films like these. So I decided to take a look. So when I looked this film up on Rotten Tomatoes, it's pretty overwhelming, right? 27% by critics and 81% by fans. Normally, when we see something like that, this must be a good movie if everyone's disagreeing with the critics, right? Maybe this has like gratuitous action and violence, and I might have to check this film out. So decided to take a look at some of the reviews of the critics just to see what they're saying, and then see if they're complaining about too much violence, too much killing, maybe too much sexuality in the movie. No, it it is not anything like you would expect coming from you know these critics. Like this one, look, Polygon, a Polygon article coming out like this on an all female cast of an action movie. The 355 continues the hot new streak of lousy lady action movies. I had to look at that again. Polygon said this. What? Are we serious? And then even going down, in their unification, the women denote inclusion, empowerment, and validation. The 355 nonsensical script written by Teresa Rebick and Kinberg shoves these positive that these shoves those positives down audiences' throat without ever making them specific or insightful enough to signify anything. That's kind of like what we've been saying for like a long time. We've been saying this on a lot of these movies that are coming out, and you see that right there they're comparing it, to Kate, Gunpowder, Milkshake, Protege, and Jolt, and stuff like all of these female-led action movies that are being forced out, but they're being forced out like very badly, very poorly. And this movie, it did sound like it had a good premise to it, a good idea, but that's only gonna get you so far. I mean, you've got to be able to execute, beyond that. You've got to be able to put some thought behind the characters and the world that you're building, and not just depend on the premise of the movie that you got right here. And it sounds like journalists are finally coming around to what we've been saying for like a long time now, for a long time since Ghostbusters 2016. And even ABC right here, Peter Travers from the ABC and Good Morning America. ABC. The 355, an empty, soulless mess. What? From them? I didn't think I would see the day something like that would be coming from them. What could go wrong? For starters, the script by Kinberg and co-writer Teresa Rebick, which pushes preposterous to new depths of dumb. That's hard. Casting women in the traditional male roles didn't work for Ocean's 8 or the 2016 Ghostbusters, and it doesn't work here. And that's because the material hasn't been reimagined, just rehashed. Does that sound familiar? That sounds like what almost every YouTube channel that has been complaining about these films, that's what all the fans, that's what everybody in the comments of all of these videos that people have been putting out for like the past couple years, that's what everybody's been saying. And now journalists from ABC and Polygon are all of a sudden waking up to it, and all of a sudden they're comparing it to 2016, when I'm pretty sure back in 2016 they were defending Ghostbusters 2016. But yet now, I don't know if they're trying to jump on the bandwagon or they're trying to see that they have no more excuses to defend these people. And then look at this from the same article. Still, it's the ladies who get the worst of the dialogue. James Bond never had to deal with real life, says Mace. James Bond always ended up alone. Really? This is how women talk as they share a few beers while sniffling about their lonely life of spying. Exactly. And the creators, the writers, whoever does the storyboards for these kind of films that come up with it. I made a video last week covering this pretty similar content that these writers are putting out, talking about the Snyderverse and Supergirl becoming, taking over Superman. But the point was that I go into it, and later on in the video is I give examples on the people that write this and how they're kind of like stuck in a fan fiction. They don't develop the characters, beyond of what they're trying to preach or what they're trying to inject and what they're trying to give you, rather than just telling a story properly. And this is the kind of stuff you get. This is exactly the kind of dialogue I was talking about in my other video that they give you. And it's like they've never actually like talked to people, and they've never actually had conversations with real people about real things or something. And it's like they start writing the dialogue and they're thinking oh, this is a good opportunity for me to put something in, to put like a little preaching thing in. It's like right here, they got to compare themselves to the men. It's like you don't need who goes around comparing themselves to other people and things like when they're going through real life stuff. You know, for 14 years in the military, we weren't comparing ourselves to James Bond when we were on the battlefield or in combat or anything like that. We're not comparing ourselves to the Terminator and stuff. If we are, we're making jokes. We're not, talking about things like this. This is this is ridiculous. But it goes to show that these people, they have no imagination and no creativity. They can come up with good ideas. They can come up with good ideas, but they can't execute beyond that. And and you have to be able to follow through with it. If not, you get things like this, and this probably got pushed through just because of the diversity in the film, just because it had an all female cast. That's probably why this even got to a studio and production and someone basically somebody to greenlight it. That is why this thing got this far, I believe. This thing should have been rewritten. Like if that's what they're saying is in this film, and that's the kind of dialogue that they give you, and all the stereotypes that they're throwing in there, it's nothing new. It's like the other one, like that's what I'm saying is everything's just rehashed. It's the same. Yeah, you're not changing things up. You're not even if you don't change things up, you're not doing it properly. You're just messing everything up even worse than if you just went with stereotypes. You're like making things worse. So, uh, it's a little bit, it's a little bit disappointing when you see studios still doing this. But maybe there's hope. I mean, if we got like places like Polygon and ABC and a bunch of other ones, you go through some of the critic reviews and see what some of them are saying that you'd never think some of those critics would be saying about an all-female movie like this. I mean, I might still check it out just to see exactly if it's like that. I mean, if it's action, then at least it's going to be an action film, and then I could laugh at some of the plot stuff or whatever. But it's the same thing when you watch something like Fast and Furious. It's not the best film, but you go for the action. But at least some of the stuff does make sense in it, like the storyline. Maybe not all the action makes sense in it because it is escapism, and this one would be escapism. But there were some comments on here that talked about that what was more interesting was the backstory on the 355, and they should have done a film on the origin of the 355 first, because that was a lot more interesting with the female spies being in George Washington's day. That would have done something great. I think that's where they fell right here, because when you look at this, like all four of them, however many that they're all already veterans. So it's like we're jumping in and everyone's already a pro. There's nothing, we're just kind of like thrown into this world. When you look at a spy film like The Kingsman, it, yeah, the world already exists, but we're introduced through the world through that new character, that boy that becomes a Kingsman in the very first movie. And he kind of like helps us get introduced to the world, and we learn everything that it is. And then after that, of course, we get the sequel, and then we get a prequel to where we get an origin. We're not just like thrown into it, following the main character, following Kevin Kline, going through everything, because it's something new. It's not James Bond that's been around for like a long time that everybody expects, everybody already knows. It's not Mission Impossible that's been around forever that everybody already knows, and we can just jump on board and dive right into it. When you're coming up with something like this, it's a little bit hard. You gotta be able to make people care for your characters, and if you got too many characters, then you don't have enough time to develop stories, for those characters, for you to care about them, or people just get lost in the world. They're trying to figure out what exactly is going on. Does any of this make sense? So I think that probably would have been the best thing if they would have done actual prequel of the origin of the 355, and I think a lot more people would have been jumped on board with it, and and gave it a chance. And so, but not looking good, for the studios right now. We'll see how everything goes. I mean, Spider-Man is killing it, 1.5 billion already. A side note on that, you see journalists are trying to claim a win for the MCU when we know, hey, that's a Sony film, and MCU has nothing to do with that film. That's a Sony film and a Sony win. So, but hey, thanks for hanging out. I'll see you guys next time. Hey, it's Cloud Kicker. If you enjoyed hanging out, go ahead and hit that like button for me. And if you find anything that you want me to cover, go ahead and reach me on Twitter at FranchiseDefend. I'll see you guys next time.